Welcome to our video on the top 5 most undervalued military surplus firearms that are still on the market today. I'm American Fun 351. I've been collecting military surplus and small arms for well over a decade. I wasn't alive for the golden era of military surplus, full of $80 SKSs and bolt guns by the barrel. But I think we'll look back in 10 years at the weapons we look at in this video and wish we would have picked them up while they were still so cheap. But with that out of the way, we're going to jump right in at number 5, which is the Japanese Type 99 Arasaka. But this was Japan's mainline service rifle during World War II. It was meant to replace the older Type 38 rifles, but Japan never made enough of these to quite replace them, so they served alongside each other in the Pacific and everywhere else Japan was fighting. But these are chambered in 7.7 Japanese, which is why it only made it to the number 5 slot on our list, because 7.7 Japanese today isn't that common, and when you can find it, it usually costs you well over $2 a round. There's still companies that make it. They, put out a run of it every year or so, but it's just a little expensive. So that's why it's number 5 on our list. But Japan during World War II only made about 3.5 million of these rifles, and you can still pick them up. Common examples like this with a ground-off chrysanthemum and without all the extra bells and whistles like AA sights and a monopod. You can still find these for under $400 pretty easy. And when you consider the fact that Russia built well over 10 times as many Mosin Nagants during the war, and people were asking $400 to $500 for those in today's world, I think picking up a Japanese Arasaka while they're still under $400 makes perfect sense. But these are really good rifles. There's a whole lot of variants you could look for. There's early war ones, late war ones. There's a bunch of different factories. But like I said, if you just want a plain Jane, honest example without all the extra stuff on it, you can pick those up pretty easily from the $300 to $400 range. And if you can find one with a bayonet, that'll sweeten the deal, because these bayonets are worth at least $100 a piece on their own, a bayonet with a scabbard. But they never imported the Type 99s into America in really large numbers like we, kind of think of when we think of the Cold War era military surplus that's coming in. But they most of the ones that are here either came back as a war trophy from a veteran, or some were imported right after the war from China. China had some they had captured. But yeah, so if you're ever out looking for something that you think is going to go up in value, I would pick up a Japanese Type 99 if you can find one. Number 4 on our list today, and the longest rifle we're going to take a look at in this video, is the Turkish Mauser Model 1938. The Turks never actually called these Model 1938s, though. They didn't have an official designation over in Turkey. The Model 1938 name was given to them by American importers when they brought them into the country, so that way they could market them better and call them something. But these are, for the most part, a conglomeration of Mauser parts assembled by Turkey around the time of World War II. But so during World War I, the Ottoman Empire was involved, and they were on the side of the Germans. They had a lot of German weaponry. They used a Gewehr 98 type rifles. And so after World War I, the Ottoman Empire fell apart, and they became Turkey, and they were neutral during World War II. But regardless, they were over in Europe, and they didn't want to get caught left without any armament should they get dragged into the war. And so they continued manufacturing these rifles during World War II and afterwards. But like I said, for the most part, they're a conglomeration of Mauser parts they had available. And a lot of these are built on old receivers that they would scrub and, take the crests off and remark. But they also started manufacturing their own homegrown Turkish receivers, which is what mine happens to be. The Turkish-made ones are marked KKL for the arsenal they were made out of. And I don't know if you can tell, but these usually have beautiful Turkish walnut stocks on them. And these rifles you can still find for right around $350, about as much as those Arasakas we just looked at. And I think part of the reason for that is Turkey's neutrality during World War II. The fact that they weren't a combatant, I think, hurts the value of these a little bit, because they don't have that added World War II usage history on them like a German Mauser would. But regardless, these are great rifles. They shoot 8mm Mauser, which is readily available both in surplus form or modern commercial production, and it's fairly cheap. And this is about the cheapest rifle you can get that shoots 8mm Mausers. So if you have a hankering to own a large ring Mauser variant and don't have a lot of money, I think right now Turkish Mausers are a great option, and I don't think they'll stay like that forever. I think as the supply of K98s and German Mauser variants, starts to dry up, I think these will rise in price to fill that void. But yeah, number 4 on our list is the Turkish Mauser. Coming in at number 3, and the only pistol on our list today, is the Beretta Model 1934. We already made a video on these on the channel, so if you want to have some more background and history on them, you can go check that out. But these served over in Italy from before World War II, and they produced them all the way up until 1991. During World War II, the Royal Italian Army used this as their standard issue sidearm. And after the war, they've been used by the law enforcement and police agencies over in Italy for the last few decades. And these have been imported into America for the last few years, and the price on these just keep dropping. This is a post-war example, so if you want a World War II example, it's going to cost you a little bit more. But these post-war examples on some websites right now are under $300. And so for a beautiful little all-steel handgun, chambered in .380 auto, I don't know why you wouldn't pick up one of these. If you think of a modern Beretta, if it was all steel and chambered in .380, basically started around $500-600. And I think these will quickly rise to that level once the imports kind of dry up. But the fact that it's chambered in .380 makes this an even better buy, just because it's so easy to pick up the ammo anywhere. And yeah, these are great fun little shooters. And I think if you're looking for a cheap pistol to add to your military surplus collection, I think Beretta 1934s are great options while you still can find them. Number 2 on our list, and the runner-up, is the mighty M1 Garand. And it can't be any M1 Garand. It has to be one that you order from the Civilian Marksmanship Program, which we'll talk about more in a minute. But if you're watching this video, I assume you probably already know a little bit about the M1 Garand, but for the uninitiated, this was America's standard issue rifle from right before World War II all the way through Korea. And they're chambered in .30-06, and they hold 8 rounds in an in-block clip. And so this is a great semi-automatic battle rifle. George S. Patton even called these the greatest battle implement ever devised because of how effective they were on the battlefields over in Europe. When you think about it, at the time, most other nations, their standard issue weapon was a bolt gun, usually with about 5 rounds. And so if you were an American GI back in the 40s with a semi-automatic rifle with 8 rounds of .30-06 in it, you had a huge advantage. And these rifles are really great. Like I said, they built them all the way from before World War II all the way through Korea. And so depending on what your serial number is, you can tell what era it was from. But I said earlier, it only counts as a cheap, undervalued weapon if you order it from the Civilian Marksmanship Program. And that's because if you were to go out and look for an M1 Garand on the open market, if you found one at a gun store or a gun show or something, it'd probably cost you right around $1,200 is where they would start, and go on exponentially from there, depending on how crazy the person is you're talking with. But from the Civilian Marksmanship Program, you can get these for pretty cheap. This is a rack grade example, which is their lowest grade or designation. And so if you can tell, a few of the parts are slightly different colors. They've been refinished and whatnot, but they all work. And you can pick up a rack grade example from the Civilian Marksmanship Program for right around $700 to $900, depending on when it is and what the pricing is at the time. And as long as you live in a free state, you can also get them mailed basically straight to your house. The CMP does their own background check before they mail it to you. But yeah, these are great rifles, and you should definitely pick one up while you still can if you want a genuine USGI issue example, because the Civilian Marksmanship in the last couple months announced they're going to start building their own new production M1 Garands on new receivers. So eventually the surplus ones are going to run out. So if you want one, you should definitely pick it up now. And the best thing about owning an M1 Garand is the ping. And if you don't own one, you can't get the ping. So you should definitely think about picking up an M1 Garand from the CMP while you still can. All right, in the number 1 slot, the best buy I think that's out there on the military surplus market today is literally any Swiss straight pull rifle chambered in 7.5 Swiss. And so down here I have a K31, and above it I have a K11 carbine. And the other rifle that would fit into this category would be the 1911 rifles, which is the full-length version of the K11 carbine. So you've got an extra foot on it. But all these Swiss straight pull rifles are usually in great condition because Switzerland was neutral and has been neutral for a long time. And so none of these rifles really saw any direct conflicts. Switzerland has a very interesting relationship with firearms, and all the men over in their country have to sign up for some military service. And so these rifles have been coming into America for the last few years in really large numbers. A lot of people are importing them. And so that's driven the price down a lot. Back when I was in high school, I kind of wanted a K31, and every one I ran across was always $600 or $700. But because they've imported so many in the last few years, these prices on these Swiss rifles have dropped a lot. And you can pick up a K31 right now for around $400 to $500. And these older K11s, they're even cheaper. They're closer to $350, $450. And there's lots of websites that have them right now. But if you don't have one, I would highly consider picking one up, because I think when these imports dry up, I think these Swiss rifles are set to go up in value pretty quick. Like I said, for around $400, you can get a K11 like this. And we talked about the Mosin Nagant earlier. If people are asking $400 to $500 for their mass-produced Mosin Nagant, I don't know why you wouldn't pick up a beautiful Swiss straight pull like this for $400. I said it had to be in 7.5 Swiss. That's because some of the older models shoot a slightly different cartridge, and that one's not as readily available. But 7.5 Swiss is super easy to find. Lots of companies make it. Modern production and also surplus from Europe is available. But yeah, I think these Swiss straight pull rifles are very undervalued right now, and I think once the current imports dry up and there's not any left in Switzerland, I think they're going to go up in value pretty quick over here in America. But yeah, that was our list on the top 5 undervalued military surplus firearms. I'm American Fun 351. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please leave a like if you did, and make sure you subscribe, because we have a whole bunch of other firearms to go talk about, take a look at, and take shooting. And thank you so much, and I hope you have a wonderful day.